for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumine, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. Someone's back from the living dead. Literally and figuratively speaking, I am literally making this video probably after quite a few months. I think it's been July since I last recorded. Those of you who are with me on Instagram, you know it's been quite a journey, and I've been updating you with some nature posts and just things from my journey. It was like quite a demonstration of Christ in the physical for me, and it's literally been so intense, and it's been a new level of learning and growing for me as a human, as a divine light being, meeting the human world and the humans, people, and meeting the heart of the Christ through human compassion and developing that. So as you know, our whole home searching development situation was kind of leaving little crumbs and pieces here and there and guiding us into the experiences that never would have happened if we didn't leave our nest, because it was quite literally necessary. So after that major release, which happened in I think on 5th of June, we literally moved for the 4th time now on 5th of September basically. So it was a rounded up 3 months of experience and growing and learning, and it continues because I'm continuously anchoring myself here. I actually made a video before. I'm not sure I'm going to upload it because it's very personal. I shared quite a bit of my initiations, and I figured out, you know what, some of things maybe are just for me. So I'm not going to probably share that one. It was from one of my last days on the hills, because we literally lived somewhere in the hills with these people, the hill folks, and it was just really interesting because it was so much resistance needing to go where we wanted to really be and anchored anew, and it just didn't happen. And the moment I let that resistance go, things just started to flow, and I realized I have a different purpose there. I had a purpose with those elementals there. I did quite numerous amounts of activation work, because literally I had to, on one of the escapades that, we did a lot of nature escapades, and none of my journeys are just like walk in the park. They're always missions, they're always quests, and Spirit tells me, go here, do that, merge that, channel this. And it's been very interesting because it was a whole new array of landscape and different energies. Even the river was totally different, because before I had aquamarine waters and I was working with the aquamarine ray, and I was this green river, the emerald ray, which does resonate with the linking it with the human compassion and higher love building, bringing it down to the physical, like the human beloved, which we've always talked about. Even in my video work on Patreon, we've talked about that, and meeting the human compassion, which for me, when I was pushed, well, basically I anchored myself and uprooted myself from that nest where I lived before for 7 years. It was a totally new journey, and I had to close up the portal work, which I'll share in another video, which was actually recorded before this one, but I'm going to share it after, because this one feels really close to me and what I need to share first as my new uprising and being back. I've always been there, but my journey was a little more behind the scenes now, and I've had to develop a whole new set of skills and traits, and with the people. And so what happened is I was giving these messages like I need to be at that level in that place. There's a lot of nature like needing to be awoken. So on one of the quests, I literally got the message from the kingdoms, the elementals, that I'm needing to be there and working with these waters now, although part of me was so sad, leaving all my friends behind in the aquamarine, large trees based world, and I had my sacred spaces, and I was so sad. I didn't want to let that go, because I left quite in a hurry and cutting it off, and I'll share in the next video, I had to keep on returning home for like 3 to 4 days, and then we did this completion work, which I'll talk more maybe in the next segment. I speak too fast if I want to say too much too fast in advance, so I'm going to go slowly, just saying what feels right in the moment. So my journey was quite intense, and it wasn't that feet up in the air kind of summer. It was very You know, we drove miles and miles. I think I never drove as much in my life before, because whenever we went somewhere and drove, we had to go up the hills and down the hills, and it was so much driving. And it was so much energy, anchoring in different spaces. And I was thrown out of this nest and my comfort space and where I had all my friends. And I felt like I left them behind. My heart was still there, and still I had a new quest here. So part of me was like resisting that. And then I knew I had to do it. There is no other question about it. So the moment I let that go, flow started happening, and I embraced that space. And I actually started loving it, although it was a very small place. It was just like a one-room, tiny, you know, space. There wasn't much freedom for me to express myself. So it was just like every morning we just left, either with the car or with the bus, and we just kept going, taking these trips. There wasn't a lot of my just self alone moments, so that was kind of challenge for me as well. But I developed this new trait, right? So when I started working with those elementals, one day I was actually guided to go to this river spring, and I was being shown how there's aspects of nature that have fallen asleep, like these intense, ancient beings that went asleep as the earth also went asleep. So when I speak this elemental language that only gets triggered for me, through me, as channeled every once in a while, it's not a constant, but I was shown how this is waking up those primordial beings that went to sleep, because they have work to do. And the new elementals I had to connect with, and making new friends there. So when I actually left those hills on September 5th, it was like leaving with love. But one of the other aspects of the work I had as the Christ on mission, Christ in motion, Christ in movement, was connecting with people and the heart of the human. I'm not talking about the collective or humanity, because when I was up there, right, I didn't have much connection with the outside world. Like, I didn't watch the news, not even videos, nothing. I didn't have internet connection. That's why I couldn't do my video work, right? And it was that at that point that the Spirit of the Christ told me, now we're going to embody the Christ. Now, you know, in this void, like not connected with the collective space, which was so interesting for me. So they kind of left me devoid of everything. And the first part, I was just complaining how I got nothing and I'm stuck here. And the ego was still resisting it. And I wanted everything back. And I was kind of sad and thinking, well, maybe I made a mistake. I shouldn't have left. And, you know, you go through stages of grieving, because at first when I left, I didn't know it's going to be so much to process, which later came back and hit me in the face. You know, it's like going and retrograding back, and then taking the old into the new and new into the old. So it's kind of creating this blend. And I'll tell you more about this in the next video, what I received from my final quest there. But today I just want to share what this bringing me deeper into the heart of the human and the compassion that I've been working on for the past few months. And I just had to be off the stage. It was a very intimate journey. And one of the experiences I've had with these people I had to meet, and I was literally giving a message that each time we went somewhere and every one of our moves, you know, despite of how difficult it was to physically relocate so many times in just a few short weeks' time, it was devastating for the body, right? And even though it had to happen, they told me that every move was pre-planned, was pre-staged. We had to meet certain souls. We had to elevate certain souls. And I was learning how to work with them, because, as you know, with people, you can't always directly work with them at the conscious level. So I was learning, because at the first part of this journey, we came to certain people. It was a different exchange that then when we ended up on those hills, meeting that family, because we literally stayed with this family, and there was a lot of meeting still human frustrations and what they're dealing with. And, you know, we had our own frustrations, because I was not anchored, and I was longing for anchoring, but it wasn't my time to anchor yet. Remember, I told you I kept seeing this vision of my elven Aurea spirit wanting to anchor through the lake into the lake town, and I couldn't. It was like, nope, zooming, nope, nothing. And it was just like a quest of searching, but nothing was there. So then I just, at a certain point, let that go. And after dealing with those difficulties and not knowing how to help those people, and actually doing some healing sessions also on them, you know, there was a lot of guidance there. I realized I'm actually awakening my powers in the physical body, because what I do here in these transmissions is still very abstract, right? It's just me speaking. I'm always radiating, but it's different. This was like a longing of my being to physically connect with people, to touch them, to speak to them, to, you know, just humbly listen to them, because I always listen. I played the fool. How to explain this? Well, the first time we came to that family, the woman did the oracle for me. We were there for many hours before I actually moved there. and we did cards and coffee readings, and you know, it was a very nice moment. Well, ended up being a few hours, but it was like she told me, you're literally the fool, which means like you can go into any situation and just be innocent and withdrawn and not get any opinions, or just listen to people and just be that, yeah, you know, because the ego likes to preach and talk and say this is how it is and that's what you're supposed to know and that's how the truth is. But I was really always like that innocent fool. Just I always listen to people at their level. I don't start, you know, overwhelming them with information or something unless they would come to me and ask, and you know, be very specific with that. So it was very much learning to be in that space and being in this non-controlling, non-dominant, you know, I didn't have my usual territory. I didn't have my usual, you know, when we talk about having our astral surroundings, our home base sometimes obviously becomes a space for a routine. Not much changes during that time. So we're in that space of, well, that's how it is and not much can change. But the moment we're thrown out of that, you know, things start to shift. You know the story, like Jesus couldn't heal in the village where he was born because people already had like this specific opinion about him, and he just couldn't rise up to really being himself. So when I was there in my old environment, people very closed up, not meeting any people, being literally 7 years the hermit. And when I say the hermit, this is not the same as being withdrawn from the world to escape. It's not escapism. It's not closing off. I was always out in the open, as you know, very extroverted with my sharing, because that's what I'm here for. But hermit in a way of not really meeting people, just having my own life, just working on a spirit quest and just anchoring my best self for 7 years. That was my training, my mastery. But then it was over one day. The soul knew it. I had to make the leap jump no matter how difficult it was. And if someone told me, hey, guess what? You're going to have to move 4 times instead of once. I think I would just pack up the things in this box or somewhere and just move with the essentials, right? So in the last 3rd move, we were getting a little more smart about that. Now, after this was over and finally I felt, this is it. I'm going back into the valley. It was an interesting experience because, again, we were literally invited. We were called by this person and their soul. So from the moment when we moved there, and was exactly where we wanted to be, by the lake town. And I was like, I can't believe this. This is really happening. Wow. You know, it didn't come without its challenges. There was a lot of energy there to be cleansed. That's a whole story, right? But I was learning to expand into all of my gifts. And I couldn't imagine a better manifestation, because from the first moment we actually became friends with the person. It's like a small family living in the same place, and even though it's still temporary, it's not our own place. It's a place of, you know, this is where I can start throwing my roots back into the core, because I uprooted myself for a reason. I couldn't stay there. And there was one time when we really cried a lot, and I was remembering these moments and the white lady calling me there in the first few years of my journey. And I remember watching this video about the beauty of the Alps, and there was this legend and story about the white fae and the legend of the woman. And I know her to be carved in those mountains. You know, we have this mountain pass where she's literally carved, and people go to see her, and she's very famous. And I was at a certain point just so desperate, saying, please, the lady of the white, take me back into my homeland. And it was always a no. And then again, I come do this 3-day retreat there. I was like, do you still need me here? No. It was always like that, back off. I'm thinking, what the heck? And I knew it's for my higher good. I knew I'm needing to go different path now. And they told me once, I'm not going to be a hermit anymore, like literal strict hermit. I'm going to be living a more integrated life with moments of hermitage, which for me are a necessary must. It's how I must live in order to do my work. But the moment where we started to root ourselves here, although it didn't come without its challenges, for the first 2 weeks, I couldn't do much because I was very allergic to the dust. There was a lot of old energy there, stagnant. We literally had to throw everything out, and it was a lot of physical work. And at the same time, I had to do my nature quest to anchor here, so I was physically very tired. It was very intense. So now, after 2 weeks, it's feeling more settled and energy finally opening. And after the new moon in Virgo, and it was my birthday at the almost same day. It was my birthday is every year the same on the 15th of September. So it was like very, very beautiful. You know, it's like slow, gradual. It didn't feel like that needing to push for something else, needing to search something else, although it's not perfect. But it was that feeling of acceptance. This is it. this is where we're supposed to be. So it was very beautiful. Now, on the other hand of the journey, what I must talk about absolutely is some of the things that have been going on. The final initiation that I received, if you remember a few months back, especially in the spring, I talked about this light being activations that I was doing, and I wanted to start this work, but I couldn't, it wasn't time yet. And I talked about these fallen beings who've been performing experiments on me for probably about past 10 years. That's when I remember coming them in with these weird alien frequencies and doing these things. And when I had an even greater awakening, I remember I used to have constantly these dreams of lightnings hitting me, and it was a bit of an epiphany, and crying a lot and releasing more, that this was already there and I knew it, but still I had to go through it. So what happened is, since we moved, the entire time, basically since April this year, I've had these chronic pains I was telling you about, through the head and the teeth and the jaw, and then in the back, sciatica issues. It got so intense to the point that this electric pain in my body, I just didn't know what to do with anymore. So I also took physiotherapy. And at that day, what happened, I came there, I thought, well, this is it. It helps others, it's going to help me too. But at the same point, I knew healing is not physical, but somehow I was guided to go there. And on that day, it's almost like something cracked open in me. Like physically, I think there was a bit of the implant at the level of being like trapped there in the muscle joint region. And I think that sort of created a breakthrough for me, because on that day, I received my first awakening. That was in August. And I started doing the pulsar work right after that, very quickly after that, because before I was just desperate, swirling around in circles. I didn't feel like myself. I couldn't attain myself. I couldn't connect to my magic. It was very drastic for me to live on this dry land for so many months. What this triggered was this almost like a release of something, and a realization that there's still something there. Because remember, the last unfolding that I've shared with you was that I also had a session with this healer, and she literally told me how these beings work with the electric energy, discharging it and watching you in pain. But it wasn't just that. I really thought a lot of it was also to stop me from doing my work. So they literally cut me off on any level. So it started more intensely, and remember, that was when the transgression happened. They went against the agreement. So what happened was, I was so close to the light body integration in the physical. I was almost, I think, at 80 towards 90% of that integration complete, and they cut me off because one of their final, like when they come in, right, these experiments literally almost caused me to die. As you know, I had to die 3 times. I had to die through all of the portals, right? The crown, the heart, and the root, these 3 main portals. So when I did that, I was told that because of that, and because I allowed that to happen, I'm going to be stronger in Christ, that in case that didn't happen. But at the same time, I was also told that as a soul being, there's very few of us who, at the higher level, we've agreed to, we want to stop these experiments with the human genome and with the human body once and for all. So I thought, okay, going to this healer, seeing the bigger picture, confirming what I already knew, and she said, I'm going to ask for you. I'm gonna do this. When a healer asks on your behalf for beings to leave, or for something to be healed or whatever. When people go to healers, they expect that, so they just surrender. But what I was experiencing after that was the most profound awakening into the I am presence that ever before. That's when the Aurea, being the I am Aurea, started to grow within me. Because what happened is, first, when we came there, we had a beautiful exchange in the hills with that family, because we've gotten the I am books, The Journey of the Masters by Spalding, right? T. Bert Spalding. And I was reading these books, and it all made a lot of sense. And then right after that physiotherapy session, physical therapy, and having a few of those shifts and starting to work with pain again, one day I'm lying there on the bench overlooking a view, and it hit me. I started getting these messages like what they want to do, and we still have an agreement for about a year. We're just going to work on the optical nerve. We just want to do a little bit of that. And I was starting to get these messages again. But this time, beings were telling me what they're actually doing, because I was already so much in my Christ that they had no other choice. They couldn't sneak up. They were kind of trying to be all that, when you're kind of sucking up to someone and you're like, oh, we just want this and that. Come on, please, please. So they were being all like, yeah, you know, trying to hoax me into that one last time. And when I was listening to those messages, again, they were trying to present themselves as these Illuminartorians or whatever. And I didn't fall for it because it was already so much in the Christ. And that's when I realized no spiritual healer or no activation that's outside of you can ever complete something. That was my third initiation with these beings. So the first one was realizing that they're actually doing this on me. Second one was this divine dispensation through Christ, because only through Christ it could be literally saved and rescued and resurrected. The third time was getting rid of all of their implants and energetic distortions that were in my body, because that's what was still lingering in me and causing all this pain, right? So at that moment, I got into this very feisty energy, and I literally told them off, and I said, no freaking way you're ever going to touch me again in this body. And because I was already doing the pulsar for about a week, because that's when I started doing the pulsar again, following, right? Are you following me? It was so intense, and the pulsar actually uplifted me again so I could reach the level that already was seated by me last year. So basically it was all set up. I just had to return to that state, okay? So what happened is these beings were trying to present this story, and then I saw through them, and I said, the heck no. And I said, if you ever defile this body again, I'm going to take you into the Supreme Court of the Grand 12 Elohim, and you're going to be facing the court of justice. So later, actually, I was told that this transgression had to happen because that was basically how the Christ works. Christ is sneaky too. Christ is smart. It's divine intelligence. So what the Christ did, it lured them in that way so the mistake can be made that they actually would go to court. Because they always use like this little loopholes, you know, if you have a contract and there's like tiny little agreements there that it still allow you to do an act of defilement, right? And it's still unjust, but there's somehow a justification in that sort of a manual or something, right? So everything in divine light dispensation has its core rule of law, because there's universal principles and laws, and, you know, above it all are principles of creation. And the grand design and the almighty Elohim are like, you know, they're on top of it all. So when I said that, I said, I will pulsate you out of this galaxy if you ever touch this body again. Nothing ever will touch and influence this body but Aurea. And that's when I started returning to my Aurea spirit. But joke's not over, game's not over. What happened is when we moved here, I started getting intense pain again. And that's when I realized my body is calling me that, you know, first it was getting rid of them visiting me. Then I had to do, like I said, I went straight into source. I went to the Godhead itself, and through the Christ, make the agreement. I had to ask for this to stop, and I had to be humble and receive that dispensation. They couldn't touch me anymore, but they could still influence me from the outside. Then I had to master that no healer or anyone else will start governing these energies and moving them outside of my body but myself. That was the next initiation. And this last stage now is just getting rid of their influences in my body, because what happened is I have so much trapped electricity in my body, which causes tremendous pain. And for about 2 weeks now, I could barely walk. I cried myself to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't move. The pain was so intense. And I just realized this is all trapped electricity, because I remember my mom, she was massaging me one time to help. And she was saying, oh, there's like this weird energy. Even when I massage you, it's like cracking under my fingers, and it's very electrical and like jolts, you know. And I said, well, no wonder. They were doing this for 10 years, you know. So I was shown that you can't just release it all at once. It has to happen through the body gradually, like step per step. The body has to release it through these steps. Otherwise, it's too intense, because the pain that I was experiencing was already so intense that I don't know anyone can hold this amount of pain, and it's all painkiller free. It's all just real and raw. It was, you know, it was all subsequently happening in my journey at the same time. And I'm thinking, well, it's just been 3 months of just this. It's been a year for me. It's been a battle. It's been a constant battle with these energies. So now their influence is gone. They were actually, I did take them to the court. I did make the command. After one pulsar actually went into the Grand Justice hallway, and I recommended them. I said, justice has to be done. Will their case be heard? Will my case be heard? Will our case be heard? And they said yes. So basically at that point I just surrendered them. We're no longer in my sphere. But what happened is I still had to do the physical act. I had to engage in the physicality of it all, realizing that no matter what, disturbance is gone, the perpetrator is gone, but the influencing energies, the energetics belonging to their experiments, to their stuff, still there, influencing my body. So now I'm in this last stage of this development, and I'm needing to find a technique how to do that. One day I'll talk about this perhaps, but I'm still in that setting up the right stage for my spirit initiation to do this work. I know a lot of you might have experienced something similar, maybe in less drastic measures than me, because I was one of the volunteers who was directly engaged in these beings. People talk about astral entities. Let me reassure you, what I've experienced, these are not astral entities. These are fallen beings. They're not astral. They're like tiny fragments created through their distortions and experiments. These are little fallen creation beings. These are very powerful beings. They're creator beings, and yet they do not create through the spark of the creator. They've withdrawn themselves, and they're like mad scientists, right? We've talked about it. Remember when I shared those videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the spring date timeline, you know, when I've shared about these things and experiments. So I had to conquer. I had to be victorious. And I can't wait for the day when I stand there pain-free, totally tall in my spirit of the Christ in this body, and say, did you expect anything less of me but that? I'm waiting for that day. You know, I'm creating that day. So that's that. And I do want to share, it is so important that we understand that the Christ can only be resurrected through the I Am presence, that we start to give directions, work with the white ray. I mean, there's so many techniques and beautiful truths written in that book from T. Burt Spalding. There's Slovene translations in my language. There's these booklets. I've only had one. There's different booklets from different sources, I think. But this one was my favorite, like Wisdom of the Masters of the East. And it's beautiful. And I know I have a totally different purpose than Masters of the East, but it was very much reminding me that only through the I Am invocation, that you're bringing your spirit. You have to know your spirit. You have to know your essence. Working it through your body. Nothing as glorious and victorious as your spirit in the body. That's where my navigation journey began. You know, giving directions and orders. That's the only way to actually be victorious through Christ. So these are the levels and stages. One day we're going to do the light body and the light body activations. I don't know, teaching one day. I don't know when, because I'm still in the processing of it all. But the last thing I want to speak about is what I've been experiencing in the past few months and weeks, was this opening to this unconditional, you know, this irrevocable, what's the word? I don't know the word, but it's this beautiful word. I can't speak the word now. I can't pronounce it. Sorry, guys. But it's just this completely life-shattering, life as we know it, life in the status quo. This absolute spiritual warrior, feline essence, fight for love. You know, ride or die. This fierce love. So what I experienced, you know, in many of these cases through these humans I met, this love for them, and you know, with the people we lived at, this example was very tricky, because there was this woman who was stabbed by a gypsy one day when she was young, and I've seen her storyline, I've seen her timelines, like how she received this imprint of the dark through that, and she couldn't anchor her soul since then. And she was very agitated. She had really deep physical issues, like health issues as well. And I couldn't do the work with her because she wasn't ready and she didn't want it. But one day I'm sitting here, I think it was on August 1st, I'm going into the pulsar, and I was receiving this grand initiation where Spirit said, you don't need always the human ego approval. If the soul approves, if you ask the soul directly, and if the soul says yes, because it's the soul that called me to help and assist, even though the human mind and the ego wasn't there yet, wasn't willing to accept and embrace the divine gift that was there as a sacred, selfless service, act of love. And I'm sitting here doing the pulsar, and with the pulsar, imagining how I'm excavating this gypsy, this dark energy out of her. Next experience, when I came here, when we moved here, interesting thing, Again, another long story. This beautiful old soul, our owner, neighbor, sister, friend, she had a very difficult life, and her mother was basically a bully. And I didn't realize until one night I had a dream. It was not, probably just like a week ago or something. And I had a dream, and we were talking with her, and all of a sudden she changed, she shifted, and she started behaving really badly. And I said, what's wrong? We're just us. We love you. What's happening? And she was throwing things around and temper tantrum and being all evil. I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden I'm seeing, well, that's not even her. It's an entity. And all of a sudden I'm pulled. I realized I saw the truth, and I touch her like this by both hands. And I've never experienced myself as so strong as in that dream. I was just holding her like this. And the funny thing is, this entity was reptilian in nature because it showed me its tongue. And literally what happened, I bit it off. I bit off its tongue, for real. I'm like witnessing myself, Galadriel, Paladriel, fierce, strong, standing there and basically laughing at this entity, because the words I said to the entity were like, you don't even stand a chance. What are you doing here? It's Aurea. What's wrong with you? And the entity was like trying to fight, and she couldn't, because I was steady as a rock. And then the entity left. So the next day she tells us, I've had such a migraine headache the entire night. I'm like, wow, goosebumps, guys. And we tell her all about it, and she was open and receptive, and said, let's do a Reiki channel session to soothe the body, to do the cords, to bring the body back to the balance. Because when an entity leaves, whenever something leaves your body, like even now with the electric discharges leaving my body, it's so super painful, I'm telling you, because they're leaving through, like just how they've been going in, they have to leave through the tissue levels, the muscle levels, the cellular level, and the subatomic particle level, at least, because they're foreign energies. They were not created within your own body template. They were outside forces coming into you, like literally violations. And it's like rape, right? Energetic rape. So we did the Reiki healing session, and all of a sudden she's like starting to laugh, and like this beautiful child, and smiling and saying, I feel so good. She said, what's wrong with your hands? They're like radiation. They're so hot. I'm like, it's not my heat. I said, it's from source. It's from love. So the next day she tells me, I slept like a baby. On the other hand, a few days later, we had another session with massage. She says again, I slept like a baby. And I've had this experience now with people using my gift with hands as well, and hands-on healing, and this light activation I do, just activating the human healer in me, not just the teacher, the spokesperson, and an illuminator in that way, but a healer, in a very compassionate way, loving these people, these souls that are calling me for some reason. And it's just been beautiful to witness that blossoming and that opening. It's been amazing. But the last interesting thing that I'm now experiencing is this fighting for this love of the beloved, because as well as the last half year, I think, I met someone I met in like 9 years ago. And basically it was very interesting. In 2011, I started Ascension Pioneers, and the person at that point was very supportive for my work, like encouraging me. And we went to Bosnia's pyramids together. It was very beautiful, it was interesting, but it was beautiful back then. I remember, still open, innocent, but it was like a journey. I was activating my gifts at that time. So at that point I just left. I just had to go my path. I was like, so what happened is I meet this person again. I'm exchanging a lot with them, and I'm seeing how that's changing me. And I'm realizing, and today we had this super long session with light beings and masters, because I got so upset at a certain point. I said, I can't do it anymore. It's just the human ego and all this, and I can't do it anymore, right? And I got upset and angry and mad for a moment. And I went to sleep the next day, which is today. I woke up. I've never felt such fierce, fearless love. I'm like, I'm not backing down. This is family. We're not leaving anyone behind. I'm not going to let ego of others or my own to distract me from the love that I am, that I came here to be. And I started to shake. This was such an intense initiation for me. I literally loved so much. I just felt love, pouring, more. And I was like, just deliver me onto this. That's all I want to do. Because that moment, and especially those of you perhaps who are also volunteer souls, when you're sometimes assisting others, and not always people ask you, but it's often their soul calls you. and you're wondering, why is this happening and why I'm being refused? Or, you know, like people maybe have a different expectation about the relationship or how things unfold, that you're just there to pass on the gift, and that gift is unconditional, and it's just loving beyond all measures, beyond all actions and deeds. And think about it, not a lot of people were loved that way. And when I've witnessed so many people now, a lot of them still has this regret and shame and guilt and fear and so many obstacles. And it's not easy for me, you know, to watch people suffer as the Christ. I suffer with them. And when we live with those people in the hills, the person said to me, I actually have pity for you because you suffer so much just because others suffer. What's wrong with you? And I said, nothing. What's wrong with me, I said? Is that naivety? Because I am like this? Because I'm telling you, I cannot be any other way. And year after year, and struggle after struggle, I just grow stronger. My heart does not turn into stone. I don't fall for people lashing out at me anymore. I don't get hurt anymore the human way. This was probably like the last experience for me, when I felt that hurt for a few moments and I stayed with love, and it evaporated like in an instant. I watched it go. It was like last bit of those demons, you know, and I was fighting for this love. I was getting very like defensive about it in a way, like I was defending it, because there's a few people, like someone coming and saying, oh, you know, people are just people, they're like this, they're playing with you, blah blah, and getting all ignorant. And I said to that person, because they said, I don't trust those kind of individuals, and I said to them, it's not about the trust that we have in the other person, it's the trust in Christ, that we're guided always in the right way, that whatever happens needs to come out of that experience, relationship, whatever, because we're one family of light. And my team told me we never leave anyone behind. And the most important thing that God anchored through me today was the feeling of the sadness, because I asked myself at the last point, when I surrendered the situation after quite a few months, I said, why am I sad about? Because I cried a lot. I said, why am I sad about this? And I answered myself. And I said, you know what? It's not just humans that get upset or sad when someone is mean to them or ignores them, and cuts them off, you know, because it's easy to cut people off. It's separation, but it's a totally different thing to go into union. And I give myself this response. It's because even light beings suffer in a way. Even we feel hurt and pain when souls don't come, when they don't want to remember home yet, when they're still remaining in ignorance. Because every one of these, like when witnessing that, every one of these experiences, it's a different kind of pain that a human would have, saying, oh, this person hurt me, oh, you know, or you get resentful, or you stop trusting people and you close your heart. It's nothing like that. But a light being offering an unconditional gift of service, selfless service through love, it feels this kind of almost like disappointment. It's not egoic disappointment. It's that we're doing our best. We're just doing our best. And then it's almost like that, you know? And it's a different feeling. I'm feeling it different than, you know, when I didn't yet embody that level, when I still allow people to hurt me. And when people say, well, then you're getting over that hurt, and sometimes it takes weeks or months, you know. This is not like that. This is more like just every soul matters, and it's so loved, and it's so important. And when I walked together this path with my team, and when we're one, and when with that person we're one, then you really remember what that love is. And I'm thankful to everyone I've met in this part of the journey physically, and I'm thankful for everyone who's ever, even if just for a tiny slight moment, allowed me to love them with the depth of my love. Because, you know, being allowed to love, even if maybe it's not returned back in the same manner, it is the greatest gift. And it is what makes the light being uniquely human and the human uniquely light being. And it's been this journey of what I've called the divine illumined union for so long, what for me it represents. It's not that twin flamey, lovey-dovey, on, off, you know, pushing buttons. It's beyond. It's just something that I will eagerlessly, selfishly, devotedly always talk about and teach in my work and pass on as a gift to those initiates who will come and seek me out or not, or their soul will call me out for some reason, whether they will appreciate it or not, cherish it or not, throw the gift away. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I will stay in my love. I will stay with everyone to the last bit of my breath as I'm alive here. This was like the most fierce motherly aspect of this divine love that has awoken in me. And I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of all of you who've been staying here with me. And at the same point, finishing up my video, I want to say thank you for those of you who are supporting me behind the scenes. I want to thank those few of you who already know about my birthday and who've sent me donations. There's just a few of you, but thank you so much. I'm really grateful. I'm honored because you made my day even more special. And those of you who ever still want to behind the scenes support my work, you can do so. Probably next month in October, we're going to start maybe patron work again, because this month I'm still settling in. It's been a lot. And we have the equinox, which is kind of like from summer to fall is always my hardest transition, because in the summer I usually do field work. I go into nature and I have these escapades, and I'm doing more of an elemental work. It's more with earth, with Gaia. It was with people now too. It's like the union of Gaia meets the people. But in a more fall, winter months, I do more the kind of work through teaching. So I'm very excited. So those of you who aren't with me on Patreon yet, you can join at any time, because the field work has been laid out before. It's all there. But we're going to start with the new level now. Everything I've learned, I've integrated, I've synthesized within me. I feel now it's whole, it's complete. I'm so excited. I really am. It's been a journey. So I'm going to need a few weeks to still do the physical body training. Body is asking me to be so fully present with it now. So one day I'm pain-free. So if you send me your prayers and blessings and believe in me unconditionally and be my cheerleader, whatever, thank you so much. I honor you and respect you and love you so deeply, as I do all of you. And like I said, this last chapter with this love, loving someone in that way, has been teaching me even a new level of love, which I now embody. I know I do, because I felt it. I felt the shift. And those of you who are able to read and tune into the energy will feel it. The energy never lies. Remember that. It's still difficult maybe for some people, for some souls, to accept that, to accept such a gift and to embrace that and to return through that. But still, we're here. We're here for everyone. No one ever leaves anyone behind. Remember that? We leave no prisoners behind, right? That's an interesting quote. But love is love. Remember that. Love fiercely. Give your all, give your best. Do not love for your selfish gain. Love as freely, as openly as you can. That's always my ultimate gift to share. And as always, with so much love is an empower. And if any of you will support in any kind of way, I'm already thanking you in advance. It's been quite a journey for me. It is what it is. So thank you so much for the blessings that you give. Will always return to you 1,000-fold. And remember, the Spirit of the Christ is always victorious and super glorious. So I'll see you in the next one, and in the next one, and the next. So until then, bye for now. Bye.